Hi, and welcome to this Friday Live as part of our meant to be month of April communication series. Let's talk about communication. And this is our last one, and we are talking today about the power of nonverbal communication. So, over the course of this discussion about connecting with our kids and teens, I've been exploring different kinds of focuses to help us think about how to communicate well with our kids and teens, how to have conversations about emotions and things like that. So some of what I've shared has been looking at what kinds of things to say, the timing of when we say it, and different things to look out for. So today's a bit of a different focus because it's not so much talking about what to say when we're talking. This is all about what we communicate when we're actually not talking, and how important that is as well when we're wanting to connect with our kids and teens, particularly around emotions or any difficulties or challenges that they might be having. So I wanted to just take a little bit of a moment just to, I suppose, a bit of a reminder for those who may already know about the importance of nonverbal communication in terms of how much information it shares when we're talking. And there's a statistic I think I remember, and whether this is still current to this day, but something like 80% of our communication actually is nonverbal, and even just having that bit of reflection about the importance of nonverbal communication and how it happens sometimes unintentionally, in terms of how what we're thinking and feeling comes through non-verbally, but also it kind of takes the pressure off in some ways, because I often hear people feeling a bit nervous or anxious or a bit stuck on thinking, what do I say? What are the words that I should be using? Or I can't find the right words to be using with my child or my teenager, or the wrong words kind of come out, and those kinds of things. So if we think about the importance of nonverbal communication, it helps us to take a bit of a different focus. So one of the things, I suppose, is that the way we communicate what we're thinking and feeling, we will come out in our tone of voice. It'll come out in our body language in terms of how we're holding our body. It will come out in whether we're sitting, whether we're standing, in terms of what that communicates to our young people. It will also be communicated via our facial expressions. Some people have very expressive faces, and that your thoughts and feelings on something will be really easy to read for your child or your teenager, and that can be really helpful. At times, it can be really revealing if we're trying to not communicate that emotion. We might have to work on hiding some of that emotion if it's not necessary for the moment that we're in. But it's certainly our tone of voice, our volume of voice, how close or how far away we stand to somebody, and also our hand and body gestures. So I talk with my hands a lot. You can't always see that, but lots of people do. Sometimes if we put our hands on different parts of our body, it means different things in our society, and most societies as well. So where we place our body on our body, where we place our body in relation to our young person, all communicates something different. So one of the things that's really important to think about is, if we're in a situation with our child or our teenager, and things are becoming heightened, we can see perhaps that there's some stress being experienced by our child or our teenager. When we think about the importance of nonverbal and actually deliberately not talking, it actually is a really helpful way to reduce overwhelm. So if you're in that situation and you're kind of seeing your young person become more and more stressed, if you can be thinking about less is more, and if you actually can reduce the amount of information coming in for that child in that moment, it can actually be really helpful. So just reducing verbal communication is going to help reduce the overwhelm and the overload that they might be experiencing. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily ignoring them, but it might be just pausing. It might be just taking that moment to think, how else could I communicate something that is going to be helpful in this moment that is not words? How can I communicate what I'm thinking and feeling to my young person without words? And so this will be unique for your child or your young person in terms of what they find calming. So often with young children, proximity is very calming, which means they need you close. And part of that is the closer that you are to them, usually they feel safe in our presence. So it's a calming kind of proximity. Um, Obviously, if you're feeling very stressed and very tense and you're not well regulated yourself, proximity to your child in that instance might actually be more dysregulating. It actually might be a more stressful event. So that stopping and thinking about what is my system like at the moment? Am I calm at the moment? Am I actually able to help my child in this moment? And what can I add to this moment? Can I support my child in this moment, or am I not able to? Am I actually in a space where I perhaps need to move away and do some self-regulation before I can help my child in this stressful situation? But for lots of kids, proximity is really important to be calming. For some children, not for all, touch can be a calming kind of presence, and that is very nonverbal. It could be a light touch to the hand or the shoulder. For others, it could be seeing if they want to be drawn in for a hug or a squeeze or a close hold. That will all depend upon your child or teenager. And again, thinking about what do you know about them, what's going to be calming in that moment, and yeah, just taking your time. You're not having to be thinking about what to say necessarily. So just thinking about what I want to communicate with my body language, what I want them to be feeling. Maybe it's a facial expression, or a noise, like a non-verbal kind of murmuring, not a word, but just a sound that sort of says that you understand. Or maybe you could be thinking about a non-verbal message that you want to send, and thinking about how we know when our young kids and teenagers become stressed, heart rate is going up, they're becoming overwhelmed in some way. So thinking about the power of slowing things down. So what I like to be thinking about is trying to do an activity that you want them to mirror, which means you want them to copy you, but you don't want to say, copy me, do what I'm doing. Sometimes you can, sometimes that works, sometimes that directive is really useful, like, take some deep breaths with me. Other times it might just be, and just doing that near them. Maybe it's as part of a hug, it's deliberately taking some really slow breaths. And again, there's quite powerful kind of mirroring that can often happen between parents and kids when we do this kind of thing. If we can model slowing down, if we're able to already have our own nervous system and our own arousal at an okay level, we want to kind of lend a little bit of that to our young person who may not be coping so well in the moment. It's much easier said than done. I really understand it's much easier said than done. But if we can, that's fantastic. And that's a really powerful nonverbal way of supporting our kids in these situations. So like I said, reducing the pace, being mindful of what we want to express in that moment, um, reducing the amount of information that they're having to process allows them to calm down and be a bit more regulated in that moment. It also gives us that moment to just stop and observe how you think they're going in this moment. Observe whether they are becoming dysregulated. Observe whether they're getting jerky and heightened, and their speech is kind of all fast and not coming out kind of clearly. Is their breathing picked up? Are they kind of becoming moving into that fight or flight kind of response? Or are they really shut down? Are they really withdrawn? Are they really becoming quite nonverbal themselves? Again, another stress kind of response. Or are they in a space where they are able to talk and communicate, and they're kind of able to make eye contact if that's comfortable for them? Or are they, looking to you to have some sort of more conversations and things? So just stopping and observing and being nonverbal for a moment and deliberately thinking about the importance of that pause allows us to check in with them and see what they need in that moment or in that conversation. And it also allows us to check in with ourselves as well. Allows us to kind of touch base and see how we're doing, because there's a lot of mirroring and a lot of co-regulation that often occurs in conversations with our kids and teens. So the other thing is when we're not having to think about what we're going to say, we can be more intentional with our nonverbal communication. So we can, like I said, deliberately be thinking about, what is our tone of voice doing? Is it communicating in a way that we want it to? Is it soft? Is it calm? Thinking about, what our body postures are doing. Are they tense and kind of demanding, or are they kind of soft and welcoming in terms of communication? And again, proximity. Are we trying to have conversations about things that we need to be closer together for? Do we need to move closer, move towards them? Is it kind of a conversation that needs to be alongside one another as opposed to sitting down and doing face to face? Some kids find just that face to face presence quite overwhelming. Again, that can feel like too much pressure for eye contact, too much pressure for kind of direct conversation. So thinking about, what makes my young person feel more relaxed and at ease? Is it, in a situation when you're driving in a car, when they're in the back seat or in the front seat next to you? Does that alongside kind of thing work better? So just thinking about that proximity and what's going to help with some communication and conversations as well. Then also, I suppose the other thing that's really important is that, sometimes when we are not deliberately trying to send a message, sometimes that comes through. So being really mindful that if we're not in a really good position to be having a conversation, that might get expressed. So, and it doesn't mean that we always have to be presenting like a mask or a face of being interested and being totally 100% into the conversation or anything like that. But just thinking about, how when we're stressed, that might come through in our body language and our nonverbals. And sometimes that can be misinterpreted by our kids and teen as well. So kind of like checking in that perhaps our expression is not about even what's happening in the conversation with our child or our teenager, but it's about our own stress levels and about feeling again overwhelmed or not feeling like we've had much space to kind of touch base with ourselves. So always be thinking that communication is a two-way street, of course. So just like we'll sometimes look at our kids' nonverbals and think that perhaps it's directed to us. It might not be. It might be about their day and about what their experience has been, and what they're processing from the end of the day, or what they're kind of internally kind of experiencing. So with any kind of communication, it's really important to just be checking in, making sure that we've, interpreted it okay. Don't leap to assumptions. Sometimes we can be really quick to kind of make judgments or make assumptions about things that we see. All of this is sort of, it's a bit of a dance. It's a bit of a back and forth in terms of we get clues about what our kids and teens are feeling or thinking. And we sometimes can see those clues and we jump to our own conclusions, and sometimes we're right and sometimes we're wrong. And so being open to being corrected by our kids and teens if we make the wrong assumptions and they correct us, and vice versa as well. Sometimes they'll kind of go, well, you're cross with me, and or you're upset, or I didn't, why are you so grumpy, or why are you so this or that kind of thing. And sometimes again it's because our non-verbals have expressed something that maybe wasn't to do with them. It might be to do with something else. So again, errors are going to happen with communication. We're not going to get it perfect. And we're not meant to. It's always a back and forth. And so it's just being mindful that we'll make mistakes. There'll be misinterpretations, and then there's room to kind of reestablish that connection again, and sort out any misunderstandings. And that's what makes strong communication, is being able to do that back and forth, and being able to correct each other, and find out more about what might be happening. And you learn more by that as well, when you kind of go, oh, I got that wrong this time, or no, that's not what I was meaning, and but perhaps my body indicated that, or whatever it might be. So yeah, be thinking about, it's not just about what we say, it's how we say it. It's the tone, the kind of the facial expressions we use, the timing of some of those moments. And the importance, I think, that when we think about our non-verbals, it allows us to take pressure off the what to say, but also gives us those moments of silence, which I think is often really, really important in communication, because it slows conversations down. And when we slow conversations down, we have more space to think, we have more space to kind of connect with our breathing, and we're much more likely to stay in a kind of regulated space. And when we're in a regulated space, we're going to be able to have really cool conversations about all kinds of things. It's when emotions get really strong that there's more likely to be miscommunication. There's more likely to be conversations that don't get had because feelings get too strong, and someone might need to leave those conversations to get regulated again. So yeah, the non-verbals, and deliberately going non-verbal sometimes and having silence might be a really good way to actually get closer and to get a nicer and more kind of a stronger connection with your child or your teenager. So it's really powerful. So yeah, thinking about ways that you can be mindful and be aware of your child's nonverbals. The other thing, I suppose, is just taking some time to observe your child or teenager. Teenagers in particular will have moments where they're a lot more nonverbal in terms of when something might be stressful for them, so they might retreat, but they may have ways of non-verbally indicating to you that they want to discuss things with you. So again, proximity, just hanging around, might be an indicator, rather than them always, maybe heading off to their bedroom or lounge room or that kind of thing. So taking those moments of proximity to connect with them, and have that and see that as a moment that you can have some conversations and things with them as well. So I hope that has been useful. Again, if you've got any questions at all, please pop them in the comments and I will absolutely answer them for you. And yeah, keep your eyes open. I'll probably be doing another one of these Let's Talk About themed. Not sure what that's going to be yet, but if you've got any ideas about what you would like to hear a bit more about, I will certainly do my best to accommodate that. And the other thing is just keep your eyes open. I'm going to be doing some training either at the practice or another venue at the end of May on interoception and emotion regulation. So if you are keen to come along for an evening in person in Mildura, Victoria, if you can, I would love to see you for a few hours on the 23rd of May. So I'll pop the link to that event that's coming up. And also at the end of May, I'm opening up Glimmer, our online parenting coaching group, which will be for parents who are new to learning about a autistic or neurodivergent person in their family. And we've got a 4-week group that will be working through lots of different topics and lots of different sharing there. So yeah, May is going to be a busy month for me, and I hope you have a really great Friday, no matter where you are. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.